Okay, upay nga adlaw sa aton nga tanan. Good day to everyone and welcome to the first episode of Pagsurumpay, an online talk series in celebration of the 47th founding anniversary of UP Visayas Tacloban College with the theme Urugo Parahan Kaupayan Han Katilingban Ngan Kalibutan. So for today, we will be having a panel discussion with our colleagues from the Psychology Faculty of UP Tacloban. And all of us are members of the UP Tacloban MHPSS team. And our first episode of Pagsurumpay, we'll talk about context, opportunities, and challenges for mental health and psychosocial support, or MHPSS, in the time of COVID-19. So I'm Docena from UP Tacloban. I will be serving as the moderator of this panel discussion. But before we move on, I would like first to say a quick hi or hello or kumusta to our panelists, to our guests who are here with us today to talk about this particular topic. I will introduce them more formally later, pero for now, gusto ko munang mangumusta sa ating mga guests. No? So maybe what you can say is just tell us how you are right now, especially because we're talking about mental health, where you are, especially, and maybe you'd like to say hi to our audience. So, yun. Can we start with Rylle? Hello.
Hi, everyone. Mapay na aga ha aton nga tanan.
Yes, Rylle. Hello. Where are you right now, Rylle?
I am in my bedroom.
Okay.
In Tacloban City.
Tacloban.
Tacloban.
Naka-quarantine din.
Yeah.
And how are you naman?
I am doing fine, coping, doing well.
Okay, that's good to know.
Asking.
Okay, so thank you, Rylle. So we'll introduce Rylle more formally later. Our second guest or our second speaker is Ma'am Ervina. Hello.
Nagkakautod-utod. Hi! Maupay nga udto. Ano ito niya kan?
Hain ka kuno yan na, ma'am.
Di ako amon. Nagkakautod-utod. Actually, I have low bandwidth, which is why nauutod ako sa...
Oh, that's okay. Maybe we can talk about that later, Gihap. Challenge ng COVID-19 sa atin. But we're happy to have you here with us. Ma'am Ervina is in Pastrana, Leyte right now, diba? And she has been very generous to join us in this panel discussion. Thank you, Ma'am Ervina. And last but not the least, we have Miss Jane Flores. Hi, Miss Jane.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm Jane. Okay, I'm Jane Flores. Hello from Lapu-Lapu City.
O, diba? May imported guest tayo from Cebu. How are you, Miss Jane?
Okay naman. We are coping. Okay naman ang pag-cope so far sa quarantine.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, it's nice to know that everyone is doing well despite these very difficult times. And again, I'd like to thank you all for joining this panel discussion. So, like I said, I will introduce you more formally in a little while before you start with your talk. But before we do that, let me just mention some parang rules or some things that we need to remember para mas maging smooth yung ating panel discussion. So every speaker will have a maximum of 15 minutes to talk about their topic. And your time will start after I introduce you in a little while. And then once a speaker starts talking, I would like to encourage the other members of the panel discussion to kindly mute their microphone just to do away with unnecessary noise or distractions, para at least mas makafocus din yung ating recording sa ating guest, okay, who is currently talking. And then once the guest is done talking, then I will introduce the next speaker until we're done with the third speaker. And then after that, we'll spend a few minutes with a forum or a Q&A of sorts. So I will ask for your opinions or probably your answers to some questions that I have prepared, and probably if I need you to clarify certain points that you might raise in your talk in a little while. So I hope that's clear. And again, as you know, this whole panel discussion is being recorded and will be shared via the Facebook page of UP Tacloban. Okay, so if everyone is ready, I think we can start with our first speaker. So our first speaker is an assistant professor of the Division of Social Sciences at UP Visayas Tacloban College. She will talk about the context of mental health and psychosocial support in the context of in the time of COVID-19, that is. Okay. And she teaches various psychology courses and GE courses in the college. And she obtained her MA in psychology from UP Diliman. So I'd like all of you to please welcome Assistant Professor Rylle, Ruth Edisel Rylle Sadian Cercado. Rylle?
Hello. So let me share to you my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So I am tasked to discuss the first topic, which is context for mental health and psychosocial support in the time of COVID-19. But before I begin, let me first discuss the term which we often hear nowadays, the term mental health. So mental health is more than just the absence of mental disorders. And World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being where an individual realizes his or her potentials and can cope with normal stresses of life. And then with our mental health, we're also able to work productively and make contributions to our community. So this definition of mental health is also found in the Philippine Mental Health Act. So now, the term MHPSS, it's a composite term, on the other hand, which is used in the Interagency Standing Committee guidelines in emergency settings. So this response is tailored to emergency situations like natural disasters, man-made disasters, humanitarian crisis, or global health crisis such as the COVID-19. So because it is an overarching term, there are different types of support by different key actors or key players who provide treatment, for example, or support that is anchored on biological approaches, or can be social and cultural approaches to health, education, and community settings. So it's a diverse, complementary support, therefore. So the Interagency Standing Committee also recommends that multiple layer of interventions be integrated in the outbreak response activities. So we can see here that the multi-layer of support ranges from social and cultural considerations of basic services to specialized services for individuals with more severe conditions. At the first layer, social and cultural consideration, the rule of the rule that we need to follow is, of course, to do no harm and ensure that individual rights are respected and that they remain dignified throughout the MHPSS response. At the second layer, strengthening community and family support, we use participatory approaches. And here we build on existing networks of support. So we strengthen community resources. Therefore, we don't just come in and barge in, but we just work on what is already existing. So that is the beauty of MHPSS. The focused support are non-specialized treatments provided by our primary healthcare workers or community workers. And then the last, which I've said, is a more individualized service or specialized services. So MHPSS needs to evolve and adapt to the needs of the population affected by COVID-19 at different times of the outbreak. So pwedeng before, during, or after the outbreak. That's why it's also important to look at, since we've been hearing about it, the first wave or the second wave or third wave, fourth wave. And we've been saying that the wave of mental health or the mental health concerns will be appearing probably in the fourth wave of the COVID-19, because at present, last March, people were trying to cope with the resources that they have. They were trying to cope with the pandemic and the enhanced community quarantine. And we could say that probably their coping resources were still working. It still allowed them to work productively and maintain their normal lives. But as the enhanced community quarantine continued, some of our fellow kababayan had experienced economic difficulties and have also been challenged with various psychosocial concerns like anxiety, stress, fear, and worry. So that is also expected that mental health concerns will also rise. Okay, so now let's talk about the wider context of mental health and psychosocial support. So the first one talks about grounding the context of MHPSS. Here we need to know what are the pre-existing and ongoing issues within the community. So it's always MHPSS has to be adapted to the situation where you're going to use the response. So some of the specific issues that we experience with the use of MHPSS is the inter-organizational role clarity of MHPSS response, specifically when it comes to coordinating with local government employees who are both survivors, for example, and who are also expected to be the facilitators of MHPSS. So what will be their role? Then we also experience having issues with establishing standards on the MHPSS response and also identifying individuals who can be trained as responders later on. Aside from these issues involving MHPSS, there are also other issues inherent to the community that might also arise as we provide the MHPSS. And so that's the importance of establishing linkages. So it's important that by being an MHPSS provider, we are also prepared with our referral pathway. So intersectoral referral pathways are very important because there are other problems that, for example, in our case, our callers also talk about as we provide PFA, and some of these problems are beyond psychosocial concerns. So for example, some of them might talk about not having access to, let's say, the social amelioration program by the government. Some have difficulty, let's say, being able to go back to work. Maybe they were laid off because of the organization wanting to cut costs, diba? Or they were trying, yes, they're cost cutting because of the difficulty of the situation also. So these are real problems that we should know how to deal with. So once we're able to establish interagency pathways, we are also able to ensure that individuals with other concerns or are more severely distressed, they're able to access their needed services promptly. The second context is as the virus spreads to other countries or different parts of the Philippines, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to addressing the health and psychosocial needs of the population. Even interregional MHPSS have nuances. It must be fitted to one's culture, language, health, and social system. Say, for example, in the Marawi crisis, they had to be sensitive to the Maranao culture, and we have to identify and empower the locals because they best know how that community will respond to the activities that we are going to give. So we do not isolate them, and we actually bring this to them. So yun yung importance ng adapting or contextualizing the MHPSS activities in one place. Another is, it is also necessary to understand the needs of a specific groups within the population who might have barriers to accessing information, care, and support. So other than knowing what existing services should be adapted, we should also know who are the most vulnerable groups. Hence, the reason why we actually chose at present to only cater to our medical frontliners, because they are, of course, the first in line. But later on, as we expand, we would be able to provide PFA not just to remote medical frontliners, but expand it and broaden the reach. So here, MHPSS should be accessible and adapted appropriately for the needs of children, older adults, people with disabilities, marginalized groups like LGBT, and then people with compromised immune system. So that is also very important. Another is, there is a need to map existing MHPSS expertise and structures in the region, like in Eastern Visayas, because this will also include public and private health, social system, social welfare, and educational services. Diba? So mapping these services is a tool to be able to mobilize resources later on. So coordination with various agencies will really work to promote MHPSS. Because we were already able to adapt to the changing situation, to the new condition, changing service-seeking patterns have also been introduced, and this will be further discussed later on by Professor Espina. Diba? And once we are also able to empower our local partners who can best serve the population with sustainability in mind, we will also be able to work on the challenges of MHPSS, and that will also be discussed by Dr. Jane Flores. So if you're wondering whether MHPSS is new, actually it's not new in the Philippines. In fact, we have the Psychological Association of the Philippines Special Interest Group, and in 2013, with the Zamboanga siege and Bohol earthquakes and the Haiyan in November 2013, they took the initiative to actually form an MHPSS to respond to this emergency situation. So this is a natural disaster, di ba? Yung Bohol earthquake and post-Haiyan. In 2016 to 2019, we have the war on drugs, and they also developed this program, which is Katatagan Contra Drogas sa Komunidad. Actually, in the post-Haiyan, they also used Katatagan. So Katatagan is the framework at which we're anchoring our MHPSS in the Philippines. The Marawi crisis, we also used PFA or Katatagan during that time. And now we have COVID-19. The difference is in terms of how we were able to facilitate MHPSS. Kasi now, here, from 2013 and 2019, we do face-to-face, we do community visits, but this time, COVID-19, it's very impossible. And so the medium of providing MHPSS also needs to adapt and change. So now, where do we come in as stakeholders of Eastern Visayas? So the UP Psychology faculty of UP Tacloban has participated in various activities related to psychological first aid. Our students have also been one of the participants in the PFA, and this was published actually in a special journal by the PAP. And then we also train barangay health workers or community health workers, several government agencies and NGOs in being able to facilitate PFA. In 2017, earthquake survivors of Capoc and Leyte also received PFA. This is in coordination with other MHPSS providers in the region. And then a group of psychology alumni, and also together with some psych faculty, we also went to Biliran Leyte to provide PFA also to survivors of Typhoon Orduha, specifically the survivors of the landslide last 2017. In 2018, there was also a misencounter between AFP and PNP, so they also requested for PFA. And in 2019, just last year, one of our professors, Professor Mike Pan, went to Mindanao as a representative to also help in the facilitation of PFA. And now we have COVID-19. So where do we come in? This will be further discussed by the next presenter, which is Professor Ervina Espina. So thank you. I think that would be all. These are my references.
Okay, thank you very much, Rylle, for sharing or setting the context for MHPSS, or at least, especially in the context of COVID-19. And it's nice that you started with the global macro perspective, and then you moved into even the national, and then that kind of sets the tone for the next topic, actually, by our next speaker. In fact, your previous slide says, parang where do we come in, yung UP Tacloban. So obviously there is a need for mental health and psychosocial support services, especially in these difficult times. And we are happy to say that UP Tacloban has responded to this particular need. And in a manner of speaking, this pandemic has created an opportunity for us to conduct public service or even reach out to more people through our MHPSS team. And this is precisely the topic of our next speaker. She will talk about opportunities in terms of doing MHPSS in the time of COVID-19. So our next speaker is Dr. Ervina Espina. She is also an assistant professor at the Division of Social Sciences in UPV Tacloban College. And she is also currently serving as the coordinator of the Office of Student Affairs of UP Tacloban. And she obtained her PhD in psychology from the Ateneo de Manila University. And currently she is part of our MHPSS team, and she's also teaching in the college. She's handling various psychology courses and some GE courses in the college. So to talk about opportunities in terms of doing MHPSS in COVID-19, we have Ma'am Ervina Espina.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Piers. I'd like to take off from Ryle's talk on the context. No, I'm happy that you provided the context for this particular initiative of the psych faculty. So I'll be talking about opportunities for MHPSS in the time of COVID-19. So as mentioned by Rylle, before the pandemic, MHPSS used to be on a face-to-face interface or talk and group processing. So people would converge, talk about and share about their thoughts, their ideas, and their concerns about what's happening to them. But at this time, it's quite difficult to have that particular face-to-face interaction. So in the time of COVID-19, there is a shift. No? There is a shift from F2F to online platform. So because of the stay-at-home order, people are supposed to stay inside their homes and communicate through online. So this actually created opportunities also for us, especially for the psych faculty, in terms of thinking about how to provide MHPSS. So what's the initiative of the psych faculty? So basically, this on a lighter mode, we started off actually with an initial discussion on how we will be able to provide help to the people who are affected by COVID-19, specifically in the region. It started off with Rylle baking, just to just not to lighten the mood. It started off with Rylle talking about lemon cakes. So I said, okay, let's give money to Rylle so that she can help, she can bake and help those frontliners. So it started off with that, and then later on, in the day, we said, oh, why don't we talk about providing MHPSS? So there. So one thing actually that we talked about was that there was a limitation in terms of trained volunteers. If the psych faculty, there are only 6 psych faculty members of the DSS. So we asked our volunteer psychologists, ever ready to help us, a clinical psychologist from Cebu who always help us, when it comes to MHPSS and everything. And then we also asked, since I'm the coordinator of the OSA, I also asked our guidance counselor and staff to pitch in. And there we have 9 members of the, I say core team. So each, we say MHPSS core team, we have 9. So because of that limitation in terms of volunteers, we talked about limiting our clientele. So in terms of clientele, we discussed about who do we provide MHPSS to. So we talked about maybe medical volunteer, frontliners, and then later on, we included the UPVTC students. So one of the psych faculty members made the Google form. It was quite tedious, and then we actually made the protocol. So in any MHPSS work, it is important to establish protocols so that it serves as a guide in terms of providing services and support, not only to our clientele, but also as MHPSS volunteers. So it was very clear, at the beginning, it was very clear that the things that we will do, the things that we are supposed to do, and the things that we will do after each and every one of us talk to our clients. So we shared the Google form, the link to the Google form, to FB page, of course, to the UPVTC FB page, and Professor Sadian also made use, created an FB page for that purpose. So basically, the MHPSS volunteers would go to the link on the for the Google form and look at who has already signed up, no, as potential clients. So it is very important to understand that we follow ethics in conducting MHPSS. So in the Google form, there are questions, no? They will be asked for their consent. If they want to talk to an MHPSS volunteer, they will be asked for their FB name or messenger name or their cell phone number, so that MHPSS volunteers can call them up, no, in their preferred time, because we asked, no, regarding the time that they prefer to talk. In this way, no, we also respect, no, their time and space, and in the process we are able to provide psychoeducation or teleprocessing or telecounseling, so to speak. So the creation of the FB page is very important. Why? Because since we are now, we have migrated to the online platform, so it is very important for us, that potential clients will be able to contact us. So hence the creation of the FB page. So we posted the link to the Google form in the FB page, and then the contact details in order for potential clients to contact the MHPSS core team. And of course, with the help of Professor Sadian, who's very techy in terms of making mental health and infographics every day, no? Especially, I think it was in March and early April, no? That she was so excited to post health infographics, and it was quite helpful, in fact. And it is, I say it is helpful because most of our clients would just, open the FB page and what you call this, read, what's in there. So this is also an opportunity, aside from, opportunity to create, a different platform for MHPS's work. This is also an opportunity for us, to have or to forge networks, in terms of referral system. In Region 8, we have a limited number of psychiatrists. In fact, we asked the help of a psychiatrist from a public hospital and a private hospital. So we have a referral system in place, especially for those who needs highly specialized care, especially in terms of providing mental health support. And then we also networked with Cognition Plus to provide MHPSS to frontliners, most especially to frontliners. And of course, we also established that we also would like that the members of Cognition Plus, especially those who are UP students, who needs to contact us to actually sign in and go through the Google Forms. So in terms of updates, okay, so the MHPSS core team continues to the MHPSS support. In fact, there are follow-ups being conducted or are conducted, especially for those clients who needs further processing. I think yesterday there was one follow-up, especially in terms of providing psychosocial support to one of our clients. And then there are initial talks in terms of a webinar series. So this is in the works. Hopefully we'll be able to create this webinar series. And we already have a techie on standby. She's more than willing to start off the webinar series, and maybe some of us can have a particular topic to talk about in this particular, if this particular initiative will push through. So I guess these are some of the things that the UPV psychology faculty members have done or are doing or is doing in terms of providing MHPSS support or work to our medical frontliners or frontliners and our UP students. And we hope to expand our clientele if and when there is a need for our services. And I think that's it. That's it for my talk on opportunities. So Professor Docena.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Ervina. So, like I said, that fits nicely with the very first topic when Rylle talked about the context. Now we move into the opportunities which this pandemic has also created for our work or for the kind of work that we do. And it's very interesting that from apparently from small things, from lemon cakes. Now we're delivering MHP. We're not just delivering cakes anymore. Thanks to Rylle, we're also delivering MHPSS. That kind of reminds me of what is that saying? When life gives you lemons, make lemon cakes. But Rylle is into baking. So what we did here is life has given us this kind of lemon. So we did not just endeavor to make lemon cakes, but actually deliver MHPSS to those who need them. Okay. And what I like from what Ervina talked about is that she kind of outlined the process as to how the core team, the volunteer team, came up with this initiative, and we've seen that we've taken great care in terms of coming up with a protocol, and we also wanted to do this in the most ethical way possible. And this is something that's very important, especially because I think it's easy to forget these aspects at times like this. Admittedly, however, doing MHPSS work in a time like this, when we have this pandemic, it's not easy. I mean, doing MHPSS in itself is not easy work, during regular quote unquote times. How much more during a pandemic like this, when you can, talk to your client or to someone face to face. And therefore, we move on to our third topic. We will talk about challenges in terms of doing MHPSS and probably some steps or ways forward as to how we probably in terms of how we can improve our service. And this will be the topic of our third speaker. So we have Dr. Mary Jane Flores, and we're very thankful for her help, not only in this panel discussion, but also in our volunteer team. So Dr. Flores is a licensed psychologist, and she functions as medical staff 6, serving as a clinical psychologist at the Chonghua Hospital in Mandaue City, Cebu. And she's also a part-time professor at the University of San Carlos, where she teaches both undergraduate and graduate classes. She obtained her PhD in psychology from the Ateneo de Manila University, and she formerly served as assistant professor of psychology at the Mindanao State University, Marawi campus. So we fondly call her Miss Jane, by the way, so I hope you may be wondering why we don't call her Dr. Flores. So we're used to calling her Miss Jane. So may I now present to you to talk about challenges and ways in terms of moving forward in our MHPSS work. We have Miss Jane. Miss Jane?
good day to everybody. Okay, so I really don't feel like I'm a guest. I have been, I believe, adopted by the psychology faculty in UPVTC. So, yeah, I also feel at home with the team. I've been working with the team for many years already. So I'll be talking this time about the challenges that we experienced while we were doing the project. And later on, I'll also be presenting ideas about ways we can move forward. Okay, so I believe it was the first time for almost all of us in the team to get involved in the creation of an online platform for delivering MHPSS. So it was really challenging for all of us from the beginning when we were organizing and planning up to its delivery. So it was quite a learning experience for all of us. So I grouped our challenges into four types. There are challenges related to manpower. There are also challenges related to the programs or services that we offer. And then technology issues were so real for almost all of us. And then there's also another set about client response. So let's go to the first set. No, the first type of challenges was related to manpower concerns. There were only 9 of us in the team. So compared to the target population that we were hoping to serve, we were really very few. At first, we were considering of serving the general community in the province or even neighboring provinces. However, since we were very few, we decided to focus, as Ma'am Ervina has explained earlier, we've decided to focus on the frontliners and then also UPVTC students and personnel. So we had to adjust our target population because of our limitation, which is the size of our team. But because of our small number, we also considered a thought of recruiting more volunteers who would be able to help us. This was also previously explained by Ma'am. No, we were confronted with the need for more volunteers. However, again, we had to find ways and how to get more volunteers to join and how to get qualified volunteers to join. Qualified means that the volunteers would have been trained already in psychological first aid, no? And so if we got volunteers who were not trained, we also asked, would the situation make it possible for us to train them? Of which the most obvious answer was no. So the most that we could do was to um, think of people that they knew, no? People that we knew who were like students or alumni who have been previously trained in psychological first aid in the previous semesters or in the previous years, no? So um, that's what happened in how when we were confronted with a very small size of the team, no? So the next set of challenges concerned the program, deciding on the program or services to offer, because we were aware that it is very possible that the people in the community that we'll be serving would be needing either PFA or counseling services. However, we were also aware of the unique requirements and demands of each kind of services, no? The demands that they would place on the setup or on the volunteer. Like for example, if we deliver PFA, we would have to establish linkages with other agencies or institutions who could meet the needs of our clients. So we just have to refer our clients to them for their needs to be addressed, no? And on the other hand, if we offer counseling services, it would also place more demands on the time and resources from the volunteer. No time, because a counseling session would require about an hour, no, to do when you have to engage with the client, no, and then also in addition to the time demands on time, the volunteer has to have the internet connection, a stable one at that, or the volunteer has to have counseling skills. The volunteer also has to spend a little because for data or for cell phone load, so that so that he or she can contact or call the client, no? And most importantly, the volunteer has to be mentally, emotionally, psychologically prepared and ready to administer or to provide these services to the client. So um, we were having all of these things. We considered our very limited capacities. No, the team acknowledged that we had varied capacities in uh, providing counseling, for example, and so. But all of us know how to deliver psychological first aid. So we decided on providing psychological first aid services to clients. So um, having decided on a PFA, the next challenge for us was to establish linkages with agencies and institutions. No? So Ma'am Ervina mentioned before earlier that we were able to establish linkages with some psychiatrists who are willing to see the clients that we refer to them, and also we were also able to link with uh, Cognition Plus. I think it's an organization somewhere nearby municipality, no, in Tacloban. So we had a little bit difficulty in establishing more linkages. So we were only able to link with a few psychiatrists, and then the situation was made a little more difficult for us because some hospitals at that time, they had limited consultation hours and they only entertained priority cases. So that was really a challenge for our, not only for us but also to our clients. No, it's good that some members of the team they know some doctors and they try to communicate, get in touch with some of them to request them to be willing to see our clients that we refer. Another service that we wanted to offer, what we decided to serve, was an FB mental health support page. No, this was an online mental health support page on Facebook. No, the purpose was explained earlier. No, na it would provide information, helpful information that would promote and protect, help people know how to protect their mental health during the pandemic, during the lockdown. No, and so as well as we also aim to provide a link where potential clients could connect to our Google form so that they can access our services. No? So as was mentioned, one of us, Rylle, was so generous to work on creating the FB page, and she also started the page running by contributing contents and infographics. No? However, we were not able to regularly come up with content for sharing in the FB page, no, because of course, it should, the, the, the group, the team, parang because of our lack of technical and computer skills, we didn't know how to create infographics or how to create attractive and nice content, putting things together to be placed in the FB page. That's why we really had a lack of contribution in that one, in the FB page. So I think it was the content there is mostly was mostly contributed by Rylle. There was a conversation once about scheduling different topics for every day of the week. However, even if we were willing to contribute, we really did not know how to do it, how to go about with creating one. So yeah, and that's a challenge for us. Another another set of challenges, the next set is about technology issues. This was already explained beforehand by Mom Ervina, so I will not dwell so much uh, in this issue. No, so for the I guess that difficulties in technology was experienced not only by the volunteers but also by the clients themselves, no? Because it's possible that some of our clients were not able to see what we posted in the internet because they didn't have internet access, or if ever they have, they didn't have stable internet access. Or another one is some of them might also not have enough skills, no, in the computer literacy, so that some of them might be intimidated that they had to go through a process before they can access our services. So on the side of the volunteers, we have said, I think, enough of that already, no? So I'll allow me to move to the next set of challenge for us. So the next set is client response. Um, another, our hearts were really going out to the people who might have been needing mental health support, no? But we were confronted with a low turnout of respondents in our Google form, no? So there were few clients who filled up the forms and enlisted for our services. So this is just me trying to explore possible causes for this. The technology or internet access might be one, no? So that they were not able to see the information, no? They were not informed that these kinds of service is available for them. And then also the fear of stigmatization. Sometimes people are afraid that if they ask for mental health support, or they will ask somebody to counsel them, they're afraid that they'll be called crazy by others, no? So there's a fear of stigmatization, and they want to avoid that. And this is still very real of the Filipino culture. We're still starting to open up to the engaging in mental health services of the of mental health providers. Okay, so another problem for the client response is that for those few, the most recent count we have is there are 72 respondents already in our who filled up our Google form, but there were about just 10 or less who were willing to talk with the counselor. And when we looked at their responses in our assessment forms, we noticed that some of those who refused to talk with a counselor had high levels of anxiety, or they really had depressive symptoms, no? And so we really couldn't understand. One of us wondered, why fill up the form in the first place, no? If they were not willing to avail of the services, of our services, no? So we really couldn't understand more. That is still subject to exploration, more exploring. No, but I came up with the possible reasons. Some of them, actually, this came from, the idea came from the respondents themselves, because when they were asked about why they were not willing to talk with a counselor, they perceived, no, they thought that they are able to manage their stress, no? So they think na, okay, I can handle this. Even if I have anxiety, I can manage my anxiety. Another possible thing would be personal traits, no? Like there are some people who are so private and that they would feel very uncomfortable talking to somebody whom they don't know very well, especially as it would they would need to open up private information, no, or problems to somebody that they don't know, and they might feel very uncomfortable with that. Another is Another possible reason would be that they might have their perceptions of the services. They have made their own judgments about the ability of the services to help them, no? So, and also they might have perceptions of their own perceptions of the people providing, delivering the mental health support, no? Probably when they know that some of the members of the team are faculty members, they might have been afraid that they might eventually talk with one of their teachers. No, so yeah, that could probably be these are just possible reasons. Okay, so um, so in the past few weeks, couple of weeks, there's been very little to no responses to our page, no, to our Google form, no. So this makes us think about, what can we do? What will we do about this one? And this also leads us to think of possible ways that we can move forward. Okay, so what 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 can we do to move forward? The first thing that came to my mind when I thought of, so what can we do, is to evaluate the services, the project now that we have started, because ever since it started, we haven't really been, the team hasn't really been able to come together and talk about what things need to be improved, what things uh, are there that we can change probably, or how we can do better, you know? So that would be helpful. We can determine ways to improve our operations and our services, no? And also probably think about whether we continue providing the services, or end it also when the quarantine is over. Well, that would also be up for discussion. Another thing that we can move forward is, one thing that we can do is also um, educating the people about mental health and mental health services, because the people may become more open to engage in mental health services if they understand that having mental health needs is as normal as having physical health needs. So increasing their understanding about these things might improve their perceptions towards these services, and they might improve their attitudes towards these services, and especially it might improve, it's possible that they will improve their involvement, their participation or engagement in such services. So uh, educating the people is also very important. This has this need has not only been recognized by psychologists but also by psychiatrists, no? Because overall in the Philippines, we seem to have negative people generally have negative attitude towards mental health services. Okay, and so another thing that we can do forward is, moving forward, is to increase people's awareness about what's available there, what resources are there that they can access, no? So increasing their uh, maybe information, their knowledge about what's available online, or this could also be done in campus, no? When classes probably start to resume in campus, no? But this can also be done online or through social media and other apps probably. And so this will increasing when people know that they have they have options, no, we will give them an opportunity to choose, and that they can choose the alternative solutions to their problems or what they are going through. Okay, so another thing that I can think of is institutionalizing mental health support. No, because this has been mental health needs has been increasingly circulating in the internet, no, in social media. And I have seen several posts saying that after the pandemic, the new frontliners would be the mental health services providers, no, because of the stresses and probably the difficulties that people experience, not only economically because of the lockdown, but probably interpersonally, no, their relationships, because all of them are together, all families and people couldn't get out, and they are forced to be together in under the same roof, no. So and also with regards to the students, according to the literature, also students' mental health is a real concern for institutions of higher learning, because um, students' mental health significantly affect their ability to perform well in their academic subjects, and also their ability to finish their degrees. No, so I believe there are there are reasons why UPVTC as institution should support the mental health support efforts, no, mental health services efforts. So institutionalizing uh, would just mean that UPVTC would incorporate into its system or procedures, no, sensitivity to mental health needs, and also a willingness to offer support or refer students or people who need support to appropriate people or agency. Okay, so if this is done, no, it will be easier to create a campus atmosphere that will encourage students to seek or ask for help. Um, if it is something that might also help you think about it, I have had clients who have been UPVTC students, no, and their mental health difficulties have started in college also, or even before college, but they really needed help, especially when they were in college, but also they didn't know where to look or where to find for these services to support them. Of course, I'm aware that the OSA is there. You know, they're very concerned with the students, uh, but the maybe the help-seeking behavior again came into play. You know, preventing them or making them shying away from the services that could help them. Okay, so create a campus atmosphere. Another one is adopting UPVTC could adopt could also adopt the online mental health support, no, as part of UPVTC community service. So this is just a suggestion, just an idea, but the psych people could also do something about that one if they there are already ideas ongoing, no, on how to keep going in like having a webinar, no, and keep providing services. Okay, anyway, if the online mental health support services would have the support of the institution, it would make the program more sustainable, no? Because left to their own resources, mental health providers or mental health service volunteers would sooner or later they might exhaust their own personal resources, no, and experience compassion fatigue or burnout. No, so they would really need some form of support and so that they can continue um, delivering the services and effectively delivering these services. So, second to the last point is one way that the institution could communicate this willingness to support mental health to their students and maybe the constituents, no, would be putting maybe putting a link in the web page so that people, students, or even guests can see and encourage, can see that there is something they can access to help them. No, so it can encourage help-seeking behaviors. No, and also another one is create this would entail cooperation and agreement between the different departments of UPVTC, no, so that they would be working together in consistently applying policies, so that as an institution, all of us together will be supporting the mental health of everyone in the campus. No? So we will not just be leaving the responsibility to the few uh, the few members of the few volunteers or the few employees in the OSA, in the office, no, of student affairs, but everybody will be lending a hand in supporting and promoting the mental health of students and um, all the other personnel of the UPVTC, as well as reaching out also to the community. I guess that's all that I could share. No, I haven't consulted my 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 teammates in the ways forward. I think they could also add to the ways forward. So thank you so much, Mr. Pierce.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Jane, for sharing those uh, thoughts about, especially about the challenges, but not only the challenges that we encountered in terms of delivering this project, but what I like about that also is you kind of ended that on a positive note by coming up with, practical ways or suggestions for us to move this initiative forward, and especially like the last few points about making this an institutional thing, and especially because we are part of UP Tacloban, and hello, Dean. So I know our Dean is watching or will be watching this later on. So I'm very glad that you actually talked about that. So at this point, now that you're done talking about your topics, I just have a few questions that I'd like you to probably reflect on or share your thoughts about some points that I'd like to raise, and this may be based on, especially on our experience with the MHPSS response of UP Tacloban. So I'd like to pick up on one of the points that was raised by Ms. Jane, which I actually personally also find rather interesting, especially in terms of the client response. So Ms. Jane talked about the rather tepid or low response of our clients. As of today, we've had, I think, 72 people who answered the survey form via our FB page. However, out of that number, I think only about 10 or less than 10 of them actually said that they wanted to talk to us. In other words, they wanted the team, us, to reach out to them so we can talk about their issues further. So I find this really interesting because, as what has already been mentioned by Miss Jane earlier when we were talking about this, so our assumption is that if you fill out the survey form, then you probably already have, some kind of an issue to begin with. But how come we only have a very, very few people who actually want to talk about their issues further? So what do you think about this? Of course, Miss Jane already shared her thoughts about this, but she can talk about this some more later on. But maybe Rylle or Ma'am Ervina can also share their thoughts about this initial finding, so to speak. Rylle, would you like to,
Okay,
or Ma'am Ervina?
Can I speak first?
Yes, sure.
I was thinking about the question, no, and about the difficulty that we are encountering or have encountered in terms of low turnout in terms of our clients. I was thinking because this is quite new to us, no, talking to somebody through the phone, because for the longest time, no, traditionally we have been so used to going to somebody, talking to the person in a face-to-face, mode, no, of interaction. So I think, I think it's also one consideration that there is some sort of a difficulty for some potential clients to talk to somebody through the phone. And what else? That's one thing now that came out of my mind while I was listening to the question that you were raising. And maybe Rylle can add to what I said, or maybe she has some ideas about this particular concern.
Rylle, would you like to share your thoughts about this?
May mga distraction na ako.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but like what Ervina said, this is really something that's new to all of us,
Yeah.
not only to our
Yeah.
clients, but even to, to us, the providers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Agree.
so
No?
How much
Yes,
more to people who are probably trying to seek help.
So everybody is adjusting, no?
Yes.
Yes, precisely.
Miss Jane, do you still have anything more to add to what you've already said earlier, apart from the adjustment? Do you think it has something to do with, our low appreciation for the importance of mental health in general?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, even going to the guidance office is something that students don't like to do. No, so something that something related to the idea of one needing some help or advice, or like, would probably give them an idea or the feeling that people might consider them as weak or crazy or something like that. No, so parang in general, I think there is a negative attitude or perception towards availing of these services. So we need to correct that also.
Okay. Thank you,
okay,
Ms.
so
Jane.
pwede na ba ako
Rylle?
mag-share?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Napaano ko na hera. So I think I also agree with Miss Jane that even in normal circumstances, only few people would avail of counseling services, and it would entail them mustering their courage, to seek help, and which is quite different when you do online telecounseling, for example, or providing MHPSS online, because the medium is quite strange. you can be quite indifferent because you can't see who you're talking to. You can't see if their facial expressions are sincere. So those are some challenges. But I've had success with some of the individuals I contacted. There's one I can share with you. Na when I first called her last March, in fact, she wasn't the one who answered the survey form. Somebody else answered the survey form for her. So when I called her up, she was surprised that I was calling. And she didn't know where I found her number. Diba? And I was saying that, based on your assessment, these are your scores, etc., etc. And so in our first session, we talked probably less than 5 minutes because she said she was very tired. She was sleepy kasi yung preferred time na inilagay sa sa assessment form is 2 p.m. So I called her at that time, not knowing that she was experiencing difficulty sleeping at night. So for one whole straight week, she was awake most of the time, almost 24 hours a day. So when I called her at 2 p.m., she wasn't actually prepared to talk to anyone at that time. And she even turned over the phone to her brother and asked me to talk to the brother and said, what will I be asking your brother? You are the client. So I dropped the call and said, maybe we can schedule another call later on or another session. But the next session was after maybe 2 weeks. And at that time, she was now seeking help to find a doctor. Good thing that she was referred to a doctor by their barangay health workers. And she now asked me if we can have another session. But the next session was just this May. So almost 2 months have passed. And I realized that if you're just persistent with your client, if you just wait for them, they will eventually come out and talk about their experiences. So, ganun katagal. Diba? So maybe some of those who filled out the form are just waiting for the right time to actually speak about their concerns. And one of the things that we can't do is actually to force them to talk to us. Diba? But at least taking the first step, answering or filling out the form is at least a positive thing that we know that they're still trying to cope. And one thing also, low turnout of respondents, at least I see this as a positive thing kasi at least only few are actually afflicted with, psychosocial concerns brought about by the pandemic. Yun na lang, I'm just being optimistic that that's the possible reason. Aside from the fact that, yes, pwede din na the form has not been shared to various platforms and so hasn't reached its target beneficiaries. That's it.
Yes, thank you, Rylle. So, like what you've said, so this is really something that's new to all of us, not only to our clients but to the team itself. And this kind of setup really presents additional challenges in terms of delivering MHPSS to those who need them. But along with these challenges, of course, will be consistent with our theme of this panel discussion, or opportunities and ways forward also to hopefully improve the delivery of our service. But so it could be that because it's something that's new or culturally, when we talk about mental health, there's still that stigma that's attached to it, as what Miss Jane mentioned earlier, and then or we never really know. I mean, our clients might also be probably encountering technological or connectivity issues themselves, just like the team members themselves, right? But like what Rylle said, on a positive note, it can also mean that maybe, at least for now, not a lot of people need this kind of service yet. Because I also remember Rylle mentioned earlier that maybe after a certain wave, at the nth wave, or baka after panung pandemic, dito pa lang, hopefully, I mean, well, not hopefully, but dito pa lang lumabas talaga yung mga mental health issues nung ating mga clients. But that's really something that we probably need to reflect on some more, especially if we want to improve our service. So the next thing that I'd like to ask you is that, if we think about our team, one thing that I find quite unique is that we've been together for several years now in terms of delivering MHPSS. It's not only during this pandemic that we've delivered MHPSS. In fact, we go a long way back, as far as like almost 7 years ago when Yolanda happened, right? That was when we first met Miss Jane, and we've started working with her since then. But that was, of course, a different time. It was also a difficult time, but quite different from what we are experiencing right now. But looking back, and reflecting on our mental health service or initiatives since Yolanda until now, what would you say would be our, at least probably like in terms of lessons that you've learned as mental health providers, whether that is in terms of providing mental health to our clients or in terms of becoming a mental health provider. So is there anything that comes to mind in terms of lessons that you've learned?
The first thing,
Yes, Miss Jane.
The first thing that really comes to mind for me is adapting to change. As MHPSS providers, we move from, the times seem to force us to move from the traditional way of delivering services to a more something that is more based on dependent on technology, no? And so the MHPSS provider also has to adapt to change. So delivering and also refreshing or receiving trainings or seminars are also online at this time. So parang the real challenge for maybe maybe ako lang, no, from the team, na parang sometimes I really don't know how, I'm not very good, and my level of computer literacy is not very high, no? So I really need to learn pa more about how to use, how to navigate all these things, no? And so we have to keep ourselves updated, not only with knowledge base but also skill in navigating or using the different technology that we have, because I think the recent trend talaga, because of social distancing and all these things, parang halos everything has become dependent on technology. So parang ito ang talagang very big challenge for me. I really need to improve, and I think also for us, no, kasi I think kayo better kayo. Pero I really feel it, so adapting, no, because things, seasons and techniques or approaches change, so we have to adapt.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Miss Jane.
Ako naman, when it comes to the context of MHPSS, kasi nga kailangan mag-adapt. Although it might change, the situations might change, but I think the core principles of MHPSS remain the same. It remains true. Ba? And I think one of the challenges I have experienced as an MHPSS provider is when I am also directly affected by the situation. Diba? When we were Yolanda survivors, victims to survivors, we are dealing with our own personal lives, and at the same time, we had to provide MHPSS. And now when we also when we were planning to to give or provide MHPSS because of the COVID-19 pandemic and ECQ. At first, I was quite hesitant because I'm not sure about how I will be convincing different clients. First thing first, when it comes to normalizing responses and, helping them take control of the situation, medyo mahirap also to convince myself because the situation is really uncertain. And even even our mga health agencies or healthcare workers, they don't even know when this will be over. So when it comes to, providing concrete solutions to some of their concerns, it was quite an issue for me. So sometimes I was facing, I seemed to be in a dead end because I really don't know how to address that. But being able to acknowledge my limitations and also accepting what I was feeling while I was giving or providing MHPSS helped me to move forward with the tasks given to me.
Thank you, Rylle. Ma'am Ervina?
Okay, as I was listening to Miss Jean and Rylle, I was thinking about the challenges, no, and I echo what they said about the challenges, no, in terms of technology and we as survivors also and experiencing, no, the pandemic as well as the experiencing the uncertain times. But I was thinking, no, to cap it all, it's like second nature. It has been or it is second nature now to us, to reach out to help. Oh, in times of pandemic and even in our classrooms, no, I remember when we had our informal huddle. You go to the office and we talk about the things that we experience in the classroom, and so we always, no, share, no, you can do this, you can do that. So it's like it has become second nature to us to help not only our students, in fact, but the people around us, no. When you see somebody experiencing something, I don't know, you get affected, but at the same time, at the back of your mind, what can I do? It's a question of what can I do to help, or how can I help? How can I extend, no, my services, no, for us as like faculty members and for those trained, no, MHPSS trained and PFA trained, it has become second nature to us, no, to ask the question, how can we help? How can we extend? So I mean, these are the things that's in my mind right now while listening to the sharing of my colleagues.
Thank you. So that's it's very nice to hear, that because I'm thinking that this panel discussion will most likely also be watched by other MHPSS providers, or by some of our students who would probably want to be MHPSS providers in the near future. And what I'm getting from your responses is that it's also important to acknowledge our own limitations in terms of, our knowledge and skills that need to be upgraded, for example. And these are all learning points. This might be difficult times, but we can definitely still learn. And like what Rylle mentioned, we're not just providers, we are also in this situation. We're also survivors, for example, of Yolanda. We are also affected by this pandemic, and we are feeling the brunt of the quarantine period, so to speak. And I think it's important, very important for anyone who wants to help to be able to acknowledge that if you want to become an effective helper, I think. Okay, and I like also what Ma'am Ervina said, that when you're in this field, it becomes kind of a second nature to you already, not just to get stuck in the challenge or in the limitation, but go beyond that and actually think about what can I do, or what else can be done so that we can help our clients, or we can help each other at least. Okay. So So we've been doing this panel discussion for over an hour now, no, and medyo lampas na tayo sa ating
Enjoy.
time. But
Nag-enjoy.
I really appreciate your inputs. But siguro just to kind of wrap this whole thing up, especially because this is a panel discussion on mental health, and there are people who will be watching this panel discussion. I thought of ending this by asking you, our panelists, our guests, uh, by sharing a few words of advice, if you will, or if you if you were to leave a message to our viewers, what would that be, especially in terms of mental health in the time of COVID-19? And maybe that's your way of saying goodbye for now to our audience. Who would like to start?
Sige, ako na lang
Sige, ako na
muna.
lang.
Okay.
Okay, Rylle.
Rylle?
Okay. So ako siguro, I'd like to say that stress is it's a normal response to any distressing situation. And we might feel overwhelmed by what we're experiencing. And so we might tend to diagnose ourselves with certain conditions nowadays. We might even exaggerate some of our physical ailments, diba? Because of our fear of contracting COVID. And it's important to recognize that experiencing stress and experiencing fear is a normal response. As a person, as a human being, fear signals our body to prepare for the effects of whatever it is that's going to happen. So it protects our immune system, in fact, when we feel fear or when we are stressed. But of course, the immune system cannot experience it for a long period of time. I mean, stress is only a short-term response. Diba? The fight or flight is only a short-term response. So we can do that for the meantime, but we need to prepare to manage more physical reaction, to manage our negative thoughts and negative emotions. So somehow, this MHPSS will only be able to lessen the initial or manage the initial distress. But still, the person who would be able to do that or to sustain that would be you. So how are you going to preserve your mental health in times like this? So listen to what you feel and take control only of things that can be controlled. I think that would be all for now.
Thank you, Rylle. Ma'am Ervina?
Yeah, I'll make this simple. It's true, no, that you need to know yourselves better, no. And if you think that you need help, don't be afraid, don't be ashamed to ask for help. In the time of COVID-19, we need to make connections, more connections, in fact. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Jane?
I think it is important for us to remember. I would like to share something that I learned in positive psychology. That our level of well-being is not entirely dependent on our circumstances. The circumstances only contribute about 10% of the well-being or happiness or how you feel, no, but 40% of that comes from what you can do or what you do, no. So I want all of us to remember that there is something that you can do. Don't ever think that there's nothing you can do about how you feel or about whatever you are experiencing, no, because there is something that you can do. And if you engage more in activities that can make you feel a little bit better, improve how you feel, then that should be the things that you should be doing. No, for example, some people they couldn't help daw, but really just can kasi wala na ibang gagawin social media. But social media makes them depressed. So, there you can choose. There is something that you can do, make a change to get engaged, become more engaged in things or activities that can make you feel a little better, that can help you improve. Okay, so it's not dependent on the circumstances so much, no, although it could also contribute, but a lot of it is what you do about it. No, so we can, as Ma'am Rylle said, there is something you can do, no, and also Ma'am Ervina also said that, no, na so along those lines, I would like to encourage everyone who is listening to us, no, to always remember that you can do something about it, and it is possible for change to happen. There's something you can do to make that happen.
Thank you very much. So I'm pretty sure our listeners, our audience learned hopefully a thing or two from what our panelists have shared, especially in terms of maintaining or improving their mental health in this very difficult times. But before we formally end our panel discussion, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the help of the other members of our team. We would have wanted them to join us also today. However, because some of them also have connectivity issues, or they also have their
Technical
own schedules. But I'm flashing on the screen right now the UP Tacloban MHPSS team, and we really just want to thank each and every one of these people whom you are seeing right now. Of course, we have Dr. Mary Jane Flores, who's serving as one of our supervising clinical psychologists. We also have Dr. Rowena Gyang, and the rest of the volunteer or core members. We have, of course, Professor Rylle, Sadian Cercado, yours truly. We have Dr. Ervina Espina, Professor Karima Hopson, Professor Michael Pan, and we're also happy to acknowledge the help of the people from our guidance services unit of UP Tacloban. We have our guidance counselor, Ma'am Rylle Saavedra, and Francis Billy Mariel Palomo. They've been very, very helpful, especially in terms of reaching out to UPVTC students who are in need of help in this pandemic. Okay. And with that, we thank all of you for staying with us. And we hope that you will still watch the other episodes of this online series of UP Tacloban, which is in celebration again of our founding anniversary. And this online talk series is entitled Pagsurumpay. And having said that, we all wish everyone good health, not only physical health, but also good mental health. And we wish UP Tacloban many more years of success. Happy 47th founding anniversary to UP Tacloban. So, padayon, and damo nga salamat ha aton matanan. Bye.
Happy anniversary, UP Tacloban.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you to our
Bye.
guests.
Ayan.